The thing about doing security work for a living is you stop believing in coincidences. Not in the dramatic tinfoil hat way. In the boring way. In the way that makes you notice a door that closes 2 seconds too slow, or a camera that's pointed half an inch too far left, or a car that's been idling in the same spot long enough to tell you someone inside is waiting for courage. I notice small details because small details are what ruin people. Madeline used to love that about me. Back when observant sounded like safe. Back when she'd slip her hand into mine in a grocery store and whisper, "You always know what's happening before it happens." Now she calls it controlling. Funny how the same trait gets a new label once it stops being useful to someone. Our kitchen still smelled like the lemon cleaner she buys because some influencer said it makes your house look expensive. It doesn't. It makes it smell like a hotel lobby that hates you. The countertops were clear in that staged way she liked, like we lived inside a rental listing. One ceramic bowl, one cutting board. Nothing that suggested actual life, actual meals, actual hands. Madeline leaned against the island with her phone held at chest height, thumbs moving like she was playing piano for an audience that didn't deserve music. She had that half smile on, the one she saved for the front-facing camera. Not for me. For them. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. "Do you want to take a quick video before I go?" she asked. It wasn't really a question. It was a routine, like brushing teeth, like checking mirrors, like making sure the world remembered she existed. "I want you to remember to lock the door when you leave," I said, pouring coffee. She rolled her eyes. "The door locks itself." "It tries," I said. "It has your personality. Confident, not always correct." She gave me the look. The one that said, "I'm cute until I'm inconvenient." Madeline was wearing black jeans that looked like they'd been painted on, a cropped jacket that cost more than my first paycheck, and lipstick that made her mouth look like a promise. She'd been going through a phase for the last 6 months, where she dressed like she was always about to be photographed by someone important, even on Tuesdays, even to buy toothpaste. "Don't start," she said, but her eyes stayed on her screen as she checked her angle. I didn't start. That was the problem. I'd spent months not starting, not pushing, not asking why she'd suddenly become allergic to leaving her phone face up, not asking why girls' nights always ended with her coming home smelling like hotel soap, not asking why her calendar had turned into a blank sheet, like she'd erased her life and replaced it with excuses. I was the steady one, the guy who pays the mortgage on time, the guy who knows which breaker controls the hallway lights, the guy who can tell you how many people walked through a door and which way they turned. That used to be enough. Now somehow, I was the background, the furniture, the supportive prop in a storyline where she was the main character and I was, well, a ring on her finger when it looked good in frame. "Concert's at 8, she said. "Tessa got us the tickets." There it was. Tessa Vale, her best friend, her echo chamber, the kind of woman who said things like, "You deserve more," the way other people said, "Bless you," after a sneeze. Automatic, meaningless, dangerous. "What concert?" I asked. Madeline blinked, like she'd forgotten I existed outside her phone. "I told you." "You told me you were going out," I said. "You didn't tell me where." She shrugged. "It's not a big deal, Ethan. If you want to know how someone respects you, listen to the way they say your name when they're annoyed. Ethan. Not honey, not babe. Ethan, clean, sharp, like a label on a file folder. Not a husband, a problem." I took a sip of coffee and let the silence stretch. It was one of my small hobbies lately, letting her fill the quiet with whatever truth leaked out when she got nervous. Madeline's phone lit up with a notification and her thumb moved fast. Tap, swipe, delete. She did it without looking, like muscle memory, like practice. You expecting someone? I asked. She didn't even try to lie with words. She lied with tone. Just Tessa. Right, I said. Tessa texts like a man with short patience. Her mouth tightened. Can you not? For one night? For one night, I repeated, and my coffee suddenly tasted like something burnt. She moved past me, brushing close in a way that felt deliberate, like she wanted me to remember she could still do that, still make my body react even when my brain didn't trust her. At the front door, she stopped, turned, and put on the smile again. Not for me. For the imaginary audience. Don't wait up, she said, playful. It's loud. Might be late. Have fun, I said. That was another thing I'd learned. When someone wants you to explode, refusing to do it feels like taking away their oxygen. She left. The door clicked. The house settled into its usual quiet, like it had been holding its breath while she performed. I stood there a moment longer than I needed to, staring at the lock like it might confess something. Then I walked to the living room and sat on the couch I'd picked, because it was durable, not because it photographed well. The TV was on, muted. Some game show where people pretended to be surprised by obvious answers. I watched without watching. My phone buzzed once, then again. Not a call, a notification. Madeline had posted, a video from the concert, lights, sound, bodies packed together. Her face tilted toward the stage, hair perfect, mouth open in that joyful way she hadn't looked at me in months. And the caption underneath, bright and casual like a joke you tell when you think nobody's going to remember it. Forgot I'm happily married and pregnant for a second. The caption sat there like it had weight, not metaphorical weight, real weight. Like if I stared at it long enough, my phone might crack. Happily married and pregnant. I read it again, then a third time. Then I checked the timestamp, because when something doesn't make sense, you start with math. 8 minutes ago. The comments were already piling up. Hearts, fire emojis, women I didn't know calling her glowing, men I definitely didn't know making jokes that weren't really jokes. Someone wrote, "He's a lucky guy." I laughed, just once, quiet. The kind of laugh that comes out when your body realizes it's about to be busy for a while. Pregnant. I did the timeline in my head without trying. That's another habit from work. You don't have to want the truth for it to show up. Madeline and I hadn't touched each other in weeks, not in the way that creates anything other than distance. She'd blamed stress, hormones, her cycle, always something that made questioning her sound cruel. Happily married. That part was almost impressive, the confidence, the audacity, like writing secure building on a door you forgot to lock. My phone buzzed again, a message this time, from my mother, of all people. Saw Maddie at a concert. She looks amazing. Of course she did. I set the phone down carefully, like it might explode if I dropped it, and walked to the front door. I checked the lock. Solid. Then I checked the frame. Then the hinges. Muscle memory. Calm hands. I didn't rush. Rushing is how you make mistakes that other people get to use against you later. I went to the office and opened my laptop, logged into the smart home system, the one in my name, the one I installed myself piece by piece when Madeline said she wanted to feel safe after watching some documentary about home invasions. Locks, cameras, access logs, all green. I pulled up our lease, my name first, her name second, my credit, my signature. I scrolled slowly, not because I didn't know what it said, but because patience changes how decisions feel. Then I texted Nina. Just one word. Busy? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Call me. I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I opened my messages with Madeline, scrolled past weeks of nothing, thumbs-up reactions, one-word answers, logistics disguised as conversation. I typed, erased, typed again. Then settled on something simple. Let me help you forget permanently. I hit send before my brain could interfere. The response came fast. Too fast. Ethan, what is wrong with you? I didn't answer. I went back to the security app and selected Change Access Codes. One by one. Front door, back door, garage. The keypad she never bothered to learn properly because she preferred convenience over understanding. New codes saved. I walked upstairs and pulled her suitcases from the closet. The nice ones. The ones she bought for brand trips that never seemed to include me. I packed efficiently. Clothes folded, shoes wrapped, toiletries sealed. No drama, no tossing. This wasn't anger. This was cleanup. I carried the suitcases down and placed them on the porch, neatly, like a delivery. I stepped back, framed the shot, and took a photo. Then I sent it to her. Her phone rang immediately. I let it ring. Once, twice. On the third ring, I answered. "What did you do?" she demanded. Not asked, demanded. "I helped," I said. "This isn't funny." "I know." Silence stretched, thin and sharp. "You can't just lock me out," she said finally. "I live there." "You lived there," I said. Past tense. "You're overreacting," she snapped. It was a joke, content. Everyone jokes. "About being pregnant?" I asked. Another pause, longer. "I am pregnant," she said, and there it was, the line delivered like a shield. "What kind of man does this to his wife?" "One who can count," I said calmly. Her breath caught. I could hear it through the phone, the sound people make when the script slips. "Let me in," she said. "We'll talk." "We're talking now." "This is insane, Ethan. Grant says—" She stopped. Too late. "Grant," I repeated. Her silence wasn't empty anymore. It was full, packed tight with regret. "You're embarrassing yourself," she said weakly. "The neighbors can see." I glanced through the window. Mrs. Klein across the street was definitely outside. Phone angled suspiciously low. "Good," I said. "Wave." "You're being cruel." "No," I said. "I'm being accurate." She started crying then, loud, performative, the kind of crying meant for witnesses. "I'll ruin you," she hissed between sobs. "Do you hear me?" "I hear you," I said. "I always do. That's the problem." I ended the call. A second later, her name popped up again, and again. Then another notification slid onto my screen. "Grant Lasker is calling." I stared at the name until the phone stopped vibrating. Outside, Madeline screamed my name. Inside, the house stayed quiet. Everything was locked. Everything was recorded. And for the first time in months, I slept perfectly still, knowing exactly what came next. I woke up before the alarm, which is how I knew sleep hadn't fixed anything. It had just organized it. The house felt different in the morning. Not sad, not angry, lighter, like a room after furniture gets moved out and you finally see the floor again. My phone had 43 notifications, calls, texts, missed FaceTimes, messages from numbers I didn't have saved, friends of hers, co-workers, one from her mother that just said, "What is going on?" I didn't answer any of them. I showered, dressed, made coffee, and sat at the table like it was a normal workday, because the fastest way to stay in control is to keep your routines intact while everyone else is spiraling. I opened my laptop and started with the boring stuff: insurance portal, shared account, my login, my name at the top. I wasn't looking for secrets. I was looking for patterns, appointments, claims, pre-authorizations, nothing prenatal, nothing pending, nothing scheduled, no OB visits, no lab work, no ultrasounds, just the usual annuals, dental reminders, and a physical she'd skipped twice because busy. Pregnant people leave paper trails. Even when they lie, their lies usually forget that part. I took screenshots, not aggressively, just enough to remember what I was seeing, time-stamped, clean. Then the calendar. Madeline had started keeping hers private months ago, but privacy is a polite word for inconvenience. Shared systems still leave shadows. There it was, 2 weeks back, a blocked 3-hour window labeled consult. No location, no notes. On a weekday afternoon, she'd told me she was meeting Tessa for lunch. I checked my own calendar. I'd been on site that day, overseeing a camera upgrade at the arena. That was when the logo from the video clicked fully into place. The little crown. The letters underneath. I'd signed off on those badges myself. I closed the laptop and finally called Nina. She answered immediately. I was wondering how long you'd wait. I didn't sleep, I said. Of course not. I checked the insurance, I said. No prenatal activity, nothing even adjacent. That doesn't prove anything on its own, she said carefully. I know, I replied, but it removes one lie from the pile. Good, she said, because you don't win by accusing. You win by letting people confirm themselves. I leaned back in the chair and stared at the empty spot where Madeline's purse usually sat. Grant Lasker called me last night. Nina went quiet. That's not a name you want near your marriage, she said finally. That's what I thought. Listen to me, she said. If this turns professional, not just personal, you document everything. You don't threaten. You don't touch his property. You don't show up where you're not supposed to be. I don't plan to, I said, but I do plan to go to work. Another pause, this one sharper. You're assigned to the arena this week, right? She asked. I oversee access compliance, I said. Same as always. Then do your job, she said. Perfectly. If someone has been careless, it will show. After we hung up, I checked the camera logs from the night of the concert. Not because I was snooping, because that was literally my responsibility. Badge scans don't lie. They don't care about marriages or captions or feelings. They record what happens and move on. Grant Lasker's badge lit up the system like a Christmas tree. VIP entrance, service corridor, back hallway not meant for guests. A camera angle I'd specifically adjusted last month because it was too generous. And there, 2 minutes after his scan, another badge. Madeline's. Guest access. Sponsor override. I didn't screenshot those yet. I just watched. Rewound. Watched again. At 9:17 p.m., they disappeared into a corridor that led nowhere important. At 9:46, they came back out. Her hair slightly different. His jacket open. No kissing, no movie moments. Just proximity and timing and confidence. The kind people have when they think nobody important is watching. My phone buzzed again. A text from Madeline. We need to talk. This has gone too far. I stared at it for a long moment. Then I typed back. I agree. 3 dots appeared instantly. Can we meet? She wrote. Somewhere public. Public. Of course. Always thinking about the audience. Tomorrow, I replied. After work. Another pause. Where? I looked at the arena schedule on my screen. Saw Grant's name attached to a sponsor walkthrough in 2 days. I'll tell you, I typed, when I'm ready. She didn't respond. Instead, another notification slid in. An email, no subject line, from an address I didn't recognize. Inside was a short message and a video file. You didn't see everything. I didn't open it right away. I finished my coffee first. Then I saved the file. Then I leaned back and reminded myself of something I'd learned the hard way in my line of work. The most dangerous moment isn't when you discover the truth. It's when you realize how many people assumed you never would. I didn't open the video until I was sitting in my car, doors locked, engine off, the world reduced to glass and quiet. You don't rush evidence. Rushing is how you miss the thing that matters. The file was short. 42 seconds. Shaky. Filmed from too far away to be cinematic, too close to be accidental. It showed the arena's side corridor, the one that smells like concrete dust and spilled beer, the one guests aren't supposed to know exists. Grant came into frame first, laughing, already comfortable in a place he shouldn't have been. Madeline followed a step behind him, phone in her hand, filming him like he was the attraction. She said something I couldn't hear. He leaned in. Not a kiss. Worse. Familiarity. The kind that assumes permission. Then Tessa's voice, off camera, giggling. This is gold. That was it. No graphic betrayal, no undeniable act, just enough to confirm that nothing about this was accidental. They weren't hiding, they were documenting. I stopped the video and sat there for a full minute, letting the anger rise and settle like a wave that knows it won't drown me. Tessa. Of course, people don't cheat alone, they build teams. I forwarded the file to Nina without commentary. Her reply came 10 minutes later. Do not confront yet. Do not reference this directly. Let them underestimate you. Good advice, almost comforting. At work, I didn't change my behavior. That's another mistake people make. They think revenge looks like intensity. It doesn't. It looks like consistency. I checked cameras, reviewed access reports, signed off on routine maintenance, talked to Owen in facilities about a faulty light near the loading dock. Hey, he said casually, leaning against the counter. You were here the night of the concert, right? I was, I said. Why? He lowered his voice. Weird question. Did they authorize filming in the service corridor? No, I said. Why do you ask? Owen shrugged. Someone complained, said there was a woman filming staff areas. PR's nervous. I nodded, filed that away, and moved on. By noon, my phone buzzed again. Grant Lasker, calling. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail instead. Ethan, he said, forcing friendliness into his voice like a man wearing a suit that doesn't fit. Look, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Maddie's upset. I'm sure we can clear this up like adults. I smiled for the first time that day. Adults always say that right before they lose something. I didn't call him back. I went to lunch instead, ate a sandwich I barely tasted, watched people walk by who had no idea my life had split open overnight. Madeline texted me at 2:13. Why is Grant trying to reach you? I waited 10 minutes before replying. You tell me. No dots. No immediate answer. At 3:40, she sent another message. This is getting out of control. That one made me laugh quietly. Control was the one thing she'd never actually had. At 5:30, as I was packing up to leave, Owen poked his head into my office again. Hey, he said, you might want to be around tomorrow morning. For what? Sponsor walkthrough, he said. Grant Lasker's leading it. PR wants security present. Officially. Unofficially, someone was nervous. I nodded. I'll be there. That night, I didn't hear Madeline knock. Because she didn't knock. She pounded. The sound carried through the house like a warning bell. Angry, desperate, public. Ethan, she shouted, open the door! I didn't move from the couch. Stop pretending I don't exist, she screamed. I opened the security app on my phone and checked the camera. Madeline stood on the porch in yesterday's clothes, hair pulled back too tight, eyes wild. Her phone was in her hand, already angled slightly outward, recording, or ready to. Mrs. Klein was visible in the background, hovering near her hedges like a bird waiting for breadcrumbs. I spoke through the door, calm and even. You're trespassing, I said. Please leave. Her mouth fell open. You can't say that to me, she snapped. I'm your wife. Not tonight, I said. She laughed, sharp and broken. You think this makes you powerful? No, I said. I think this makes me done. She slammed her fist against the door. Once, twice. Grant says you're dangerous, she shouted. He says you're obsessed. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. That's interesting, I said, because Grant keeps calling me. Her eyes flicked sideways for just a second, toward the street, toward nothing. She swallowed. You don't know who you're messing with, she said, quieter now. I do, I replied. I know exactly who I'm messing with. Her phone rang, loud, shrill. She glanced at the screen, didn't answer. Instead, she looked straight at the camera by the door, straight into the lens I'd installed myself. This isn't over, she said. I know, I replied. That's why you should leave. She stood there another moment, breathing hard, then turned and walked down the steps. I watched until she reached her car. watched until the headlights disappeared. Then I locked the door again. Tomorrow, Grant would walk through my building with a sponsor smile and a borrowed sense of invincibility. Tomorrow, I'd do my job. And if he'd been careless, if he'd assumed nobody was watching, the building would tell me everything I needed to know. The walkthrough started at 9 sharp, which told me everything I needed to know about Grant Lasker. Men who believe they're untouchable always like mornings. They assume everyone else will still be waking up, still soft, still unprepared. Grant arrived 10 minutes early anyway. He wore a tailored jacket and that relaxed smile people practice in mirrors. The kind that says, "I belong everywhere." He shook hands with Vera from PR, laughed a little too loud at something she said, and nodded at me like we were old colleagues instead of strangers orbiting the same disaster. "Morning," he said. "You must be Ethan." "That's right," I replied. Firm handshake, dry palm, no tremor. He'd rehearsed this. "Appreciate you being here," he added. "Just a routine walk, but you know how it is. Protocol." "I know," I said. "Better than most." We started down the main corridor. Grant talked the whole time, about sponsors, about optics, about how the arena was basically an extension of his living room at this point. Every sentence placed him higher, safer, farther from consequences. I let him talk. The cameras watched us pass. Each one logged movement, time, direction. At the service corridor junction, Grant turned left without thinking. "Not that way," I said. He stopped, blinked. "Oh, right. Habit." "From when?" I asked. He laughed. "You know, events, backstage stuff." "Guests aren't authorized back there," I said mildly. Vera glanced between us. "Is that an issue?" "Only if it happens again," I said. Grant's smile tightened. Just a millimeter. But I saw it. We finished the walk-through without incident. No drama, no confrontation, just polite professionalism layered over quiet fear. As they left, Vera lingered. "Off the record," she said softly. "Have we had incidents?" "Yes," I replied, "but nothing that can't be handled cleanly." She nodded. "That's what I want. Clean." By noon, Grant's badge access was temporarily suspended, pending review. Standard procedure. No accusation, no scene. At 12:47, my phone buzzed. Grant Lasker, calling. I answered this time. "Ethan," he said, voice tight now, stripped of warmth. "What's going on?" "I'm doing my job," I replied. "You're making this personal." "You made it personal," I said. "I'm making it procedural." Silence on the line. Then, lower. "Maddie said you're unstable." I smiled. "Maddie says a lot of things." "You think you can scare me?" He snapped. "You think a few logs mean anything?" "I think," I said calmly, "that you parked your car in the lower service garage last night." Another silence. He hadn't told anyone that. "That space is reserved," I continued. "Vendor only. Towed on site." "You wouldn't," he said. "I already did," I replied. He cursed. Loud, ugly, the sound of a man losing control in layers. I ended the call. An hour later, my phone lit up again. This time from Madeline. "What did you do?" I didn't answer. Instead, I checked the garage camera. Grant stood there, hands on his head, staring at the empty space where his car used to be. Security nearby. Phones out. Witnesses. He looked smaller than he had on the video. Less polished. Less certain. That evening, Madeline showed up again. Not screaming this time. Not pounding. Just standing there, eyes red, voice soft through the door. "I'm scared," she said. I watched her through the camera. The way she angled herself. The way she kept her face turned just enough to look vulnerable. "Of what?" I asked. "Of you," she said. "That's new," I replied. "You don't understand what you're doing," she whispered. "Grant's angry. He says you're trying to destroy him." "I'm not trying," I said. "I'm documenting." She pressed her forehead to the door. "I never meant for it to go this far." I leaned back against the wall. You meant for it to go somewhere, I said. You just didn't think I'd follow. Her phone buzzed. She checked it. Her expression changed, fear replaced by calculation. I'm pregnant, she said again. I swear. I waited. Nothing else came. No doctor? I asked. No appointment? She swallowed. I was going to tell you. When? I asked. Silence. That night, Nina called me instead of texting. They're unraveling, she said. Grant filed a complaint, sloppy, emotional. Good, I replied. And Maddie? She asked. I glanced at the door camera one more time. Empty porch, quiet street. She's realizing, I said, that the story she built doesn't have an ending where she wins. Nina exhaled. What's your next move? I looked at the arena schedule. The gala was 3 days away. I let them step into the light, I said, and I don't raise my voice once. Careful, Nina warned. This is where people do something stupid. I smiled to myself. Yes, I said, it is. And somewhere across the city, Grant Lasker sat in a rideshare, staring at his phone, finally understanding that fear doesn't need fists, it just needs timing. By the time the gala arrived, the story had already started eating itself. Madeline tried to get ahead of it, of course. She always did. That morning, she posted a photo of herself in soft light, hand on her stomach, caption carefully vague. No accusations, just implication. The kind that invites people to do the dirty work for you. Hard days, private pain, please be kind. The comments flooded in like she'd planned. Sympathy, outrage on her behalf. A few quiet questions buried deep, already ignored. I didn't respond. Instead, I sent one email. Not to her, not to Grant, to Vera. Subject, access review, sponsor event. Tonight. No drama, no adjectives, just attached logs, timestamps, still frames, and a short note offering to walk her through everything in person before doors opened. She replied within 5 minutes. Come backstage at 6. The ballroom smelled like money and panic. Crystal lights, black suits, dresses that cost more than my car. Everyone smiling like nothing bad ever happened in places like this. Grant was already there, moving fast, shaking hands too aggressively, laughing too loud. He hadn't seen me yet, but I could tell he was hunting exits with his eyes. Men like him always do once the ground starts to shift. Madeline arrived 20 minutes later. She looked flawless. Pale dress, hair perfect, expression carefully sad, the picture of a woman wronged by a man who didn't know how lucky he was. She saw me across the room and froze, just for a second. Then she recovered, turned to someone beside her, and smiled like she'd won something. Vera met me near the service doors. She didn't smile. Walk me through it, she said. So I did. I showed her the badge scans, the restricted corridor, the filming, the sponsor credential misuse, the complaints already logged by staff, the garage incident, all boring, all clean, all impossible to explain away. She didn't interrupt. When I finished, she nodded once. Grant doesn't go on stage, she said, effective immediately. That's your call, I replied. And Madeline? She asked carefully. I looked out into the ballroom. Madeline was laughing now, touching someone's arm, playing relief like a role. That's not my department, I said. Vera's lips pressed together. It might become one. At 7:30, the music dipped. The host stepped on stage. And now, he said, smiling, a word from our valued partner. He hesitated. Just a flicker, a glance off stage. Then he continued. We'll be moving forward with the program. No Grant. I watched his face across the room when he realized. The confusion, the disbelief, the flash of rage he tried and failed to swallow. He scanned the crowd, found me. He pushed through people without apologizing, eyes locked on mine, until we stood face to face near the service corridor. Close enough to smell his cologne. Close enough to hear his breathing change. You did this, he hissed, I documented, I replied. You think this ends me? He said. You think anyone cares? I leaned in just enough for him to hear me and no one else. You parked in a restricted garage, I said quietly. You used sponsor credentials to access staff corridors. You were filmed where you shouldn't have been, with someone who shouldn't have been there. And now PR is watching everything you do. His jaw tightened. I can still ruin you, he said. No, I replied. You can still embarrass yourself. Behind him, Madeline was moving toward us, fast, angry, not sad anymore. What is going on? She demanded, loud enough to draw attention. Why isn't Grant on stage? Grant turned to her. What did you tell him? Her eyes flicked to me, then back to Grant. I didn't tell him anything, she said. That was the moment. The exact second where everything lined up. Vera stepped in before it could explode. Madeline, she said evenly, we need to talk. Madeline stiffened. About what? About access, Vera replied. About filming restricted areas. About misrepresentation. I didn't, Madeline started. Vera raised a hand. Not here. Madeline's mask cracked. She turned on me instead. You did this, she snapped. You're punishing me because I embarrassed you. Heads turned, phones lifted, whispers started. I didn't raise my voice. I changed the locks, I said calmly. Because you told the world you forgot you were married. Her mouth opened. You said you were pregnant, I continued. There's no medical record connected to our insurance, no appointments, no coverage, nothing. Gasps, real ones this time. Madeline lunged for my phone. Grant moved at the same time. That's when I stepped back and pressed the control on the wall. The service door slid shut behind Grant with a heavy, final sound. Not locked forever, just long enough. Bright lights, cameras, nowhere to hide. Grant spun, panic flaring. He pulled once at the handle, hard, too hard. Open it, he shouted. I stood just outside the door, calm. This is what being watched feels like, I said. 30 seconds. Madeline stared at him through the glass. At me, at everyone staring at her. The door unlocked automatically. Grant stumbled out, red-faced, exposed, small. Security appeared. Vera spoke quietly to them. Grant didn't argue this time. Madeline looked at me like she didn't recognize me. I hate you, she said. I know, I replied. You always hate the person who stops the story. I turned and walked away. Behind me, the music started again, awkward and forced. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The locks were changed. The lights were on. And for the first time, every camera was pointed exactly where it should be. The service door unlocked with a soft click, polite as an apology that comes too late. Grant staggered forward like the floor had shifted under him. The lights were unforgiving. The cameras were everywhere. Security moved in without urgency, which somehow made it worse. Nobody tackled him. Nobody shouted. They just guided him, hands open, faces neutral, the way you escort someone who's already lost. Madeline didn't move. She stood there in the spill of chandelier light, frozen between stories, her face doing the math in real time. Phones were out now. Not all of them, but enough. Enough to make the moment permanent. This isn't how this ends, she said, her voice thin, aimed at me like a threat she wasn't sure would land. I looked at her the way you look at a fire after it's burned itself down. No anger left, just heat fading. You ended it, I said. You just didn't know the timestamp. Grant tried to speak again. A sentence, an excuse. Security cut him off gently and steered him toward the side exit, past the velvet ropes, past the sponsors who suddenly didn't know his name. He didn't look back. Madeline did. You're enjoying this, she said. Louder now, desperate for witnesses. I shook my head. No, I'm finishing it. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. You think people will believe you? I don't need them to, I replied. I need them to remember. Vera approached, expression locked into professional neutrality. Madeline, she said, we'll need to discuss the footage and the misrepresentation. Privately. Madeline laughed, a sharp, broken sound. You're taking his side? Vera didn't flinch. I'm taking the building's side. That did it. Madeline's shoulders sagged just slightly, not enough to look weak, just enough to show the crack. She turned back to me one last time. You could have talked to me. I leaned in close enough that only she could hear. I did, I said. You just needed an audience. Then I stepped away. Not fast. Not dramatic. I walked down the service corridor, past the cameras I'd calibrated myself, past the door Grant had panicked behind, past the point where this stopped being personal and became permanent. Behind me, voices rose, explanations, accusations, the sound of a story collapsing under its own weight. I didn't turn around. Outside, the night air was cool and clean, like it hadn't been invited to the mess inside. I took out my phone and checked the house feed. Front porch, empty. Street, quiet. Locks, engaged. Perfect. My phone buzzed once. A message from an unknown number. You didn't have to destroy everything. I typed back without slowing my walk. I didn't. I stopped pretending. I put the phone away before a reply could come. The gala music swelled behind the walls, artificial and loud, trying to convince everyone that nothing had changed. But systems remember. Logs stay logged. Cameras don't forget. And doors, once they close, don't care how badly someone wants back in. I reached my car, opened the door, and sat down. Then I drove away, and that was the end. I didn't make it all the way to the exit before my phone vibrated again. Unknown number. I stopped beside the car, hand on the door handle, city humming quietly around me like nothing important had happened. You think you won? The message read. I smiled. Not because it was funny, because it was predictable. I typed back with one hand. I didn't come to win. 3 dots appeared. Vanished. Appeared again. Grant is ruined, the message came back. He'll come after you. I leaned against the car and looked up at the building. From this angle, the arena looked peaceful. Just glass and steel. No drama visible from the outside. You'd never guess what had just collapsed inside it. He already did, I replied. That's why he lost. Another pause. Then, Madeline is telling everyone you abused her. That one almost got me. Almost. I opened the security app one last time and scrolled through the timeline. Porch footage, time-stamped, audio, her voice, her threats, her pacing, her own words, sharp and clear. I didn't send it. I didn't need to. Truth works better when it walks instead of runs. I got into the car and started the engine. As I pulled away, I saw flashing lights in the side mirror. Not police, just valet cars, reflections, movement, the world continuing. At the next red light, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Madeline. I let it ring, once, twice. On the third ring I answered. What? I said. Her breathing was uneven. Raw now. No performance left. You took everything from me, she said. I watched the light turn green. No, I replied. You handed it to strangers. I just stopped carrying it for you. You think this makes you better? She whispered. I considered that, genuinely. No, I said. It makes me free. The line went silent. I drove the rest of the way home without music, without rushing, windows cracked just enough to let the night in. When I pulled into the driveway, the house greeted me exactly the way it should. Quiet, locked, honest. Inside, nothing had moved, no traces left behind, no ghosts pretending they belonged there. I poured a glass of water and stood in the kitchen, lemon cleaner still faint in the air, and for the first time it didn't bother me, because the smell of a place only matters if the lie still lives there. I turned off the light, and the house stayed mine.